everyone.
Hello. Hey, Anna.
Hi, Lila. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Almost halfway through my giant mug of coffee. So
Okay. Yep.
hopefully my energy is at the right level.
Right.
It's decaf coffee, but we don't need to talk about that.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I know. The energy is natural, unfortunately. So
That's great. That's what everybody wants. Awesome. Well, I think we can get started. I see enough people here. I think we're ready to go. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're excited to get started. We're going to talk about strategies and best practices for managing, collaborating on, and communicating about all of the in-app experiences we're all building every day. So I'm calling in from Wisconsin. Super gray, dreary, rainy. I hope you all are having sunnier days than me. So say hi in the chat. Tell us where you're calling in from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rochester. I didn't know you were so close, Jeff. I am in Western Massachusetts. I mean, it's relatively close, Northeast. But it's really sunny here, so I feel bad for y'all. Another Oklahoma transplant. We have a Jeff on our team who's also from Oklahoma and moved to Massachusetts. Mystic. Courtney, I didn't know you lived in Mystic. Beautiful. St. Petersburg, beautiful. France. What part of France? Weather isn't great here. Yeah, in certain parts of the world, it's not the best time for weather. Ooh, Barcelona. Wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in at night.
Thank you.
That's nice. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
While you guys are telling yourselves telling us about yourselves, I'm Lila. I'm the product manager for one of the features I'm going to talk about today, but worked at AppQues for a couple of years, been using AppQues and other in-app messaging tools since 2013. And I've got 2 dogs. One is sitting right next to me right now, and the other one has covered me in dog hair. I wore my cute AppQues hoodie for you all and then covered it in dog hair. So please don't judge me. I'm doing my best.
We all are.
Yeah.
I'm Anna. I'm product marketing here at AppQues, and I'm just here to help facilitate and get your questions answered. If you've joined a webinar with Lila before, you know that she's phenomenal at answering chat questions while presenting and not being thrown off. And I have no idea how she does it because I can't. So please drop your questions in the chat all the way through. We want to cover like real challenges, real time that you're facing. So definitely drop things in the chat, and we are recording. So if you need to drop off at any time, you'll get the recording right after. So I'll kick it over to you, Lila.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mikola, for putting the leaf in the chat. Definitely feeling that fall leafy energy. So I have, like I said, been in this world for a long time. I've often been a team of one. Maybe I have someone helping me out. And there's a lot of challenges that I face with collaboration, especially if I'm one person managing it for a bigger company, like 50 to 100 people. With tens of thousands of users. There's a lot of challenges that come with that. I'm going to break them down in like my top challenges and then give you some tactics to deal with those. And we'll show some sort of on paper tactics and then some things that you can do in AppQues too. The way that you can configure your flows to make it easier for you to explain things and manage. So the first kind of challenge that I often have is explaining AppQues to my colleagues, like obviously not here, but at previous organizations, right? Like, what does AppQues do? What do they look like? Where are they published? How do they work? Who has control over them? Who can someone get in contact, like, to fix it? All that kind of stuff. The other thing is building consistently. It's so easy to, especially when you're a team of one, just like working quickly and you're doing things ad hoc. If someone else wants to go in and build something for their project, you're like, sure, go ahead. And if they don't build things the same way you do, then it can mess up how you try and find things in the future, and it just becomes a mess. And that can escalate very quickly, especially if you start to see success and then more people want to use AppQues, it can just go haywire. And And then documenting what's live. So also just keeping up with that, because you're not going to want to give everyone access to your AppQues account, but by the same token, people need to see what's in there. And it's not like an email where you can take a screenshot and that screenshot is like the last living version of that you have. So are there any other collaboration challenges I missed there that you would want me to cover? Let me know in the chat. If you just think about them throughout today, that's totally fine. But I know those are the ones that I hear from other people, the ones I deal with the most. And so I'm going to start off with like one tactic that's not so much about using AppQues, but more about documenting your best practices. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this. You don't have to go ham right away. So you can start with something really simple, like just a one document source of truth that has your AppQues account ID. I mean, you just need it for whatever reason, and someone might ask for it. If you win the lottery tomorrow and I don't know, somebody needs your billing information and you're never going to work at your job again, you want to have that documented somewhere outside of the product for ease of use. Whoever your contact is at AppQues, a lot of you have customer success managers. And if you don't, you have our support team available. It's really easy to contact them and make sure that you do use those resources. And then also put who you are and who to go to who's using AppQues at your company with questions. You know, we have a lot of instances here where we have different teams, like not even knowing that one team is using it or who this other person is on the, you know, at bigger companies. So creating that source of truth and saying, hey, at least if you're the person who's tasked with it now, this is who I am. This is how you can contact me. And here's my manager's information if you have any questions. And I also, a lot of times I'm saying like build a list of best practices. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't even know what a best practice would be. And you can come up with a lot of different things. You might want to start small and just have something very basic, like only so-and-so can publish with publish flows without approval. You might want to add in some information like about flow frequency settings that you want to maintain. Are there certain segments that should always be excluded or included? Like if you have a list of users that you always want to keep out of your in-app experiences, you can create a segment and have that always included as a part of your best practices. And then also telling people how you track success and how that's maintained. So I'll dive deeper and show you some different ways to actually track that. But these are the things that I often find that people like to know, tends to get out of hand really quickly. And having these documented also lets people know that you're thinking about these things. I think a lot of times people worry about in-app messaging, like, are people seeing too many things? Are people just going in there and publishing willy-nilly? Is everyone getting everything? So I find that like these core questions really help also ease people's minds who are not in AppQues every day, knowing that there's someone like with this mindset, like fostering these things. So the other thing is if you write them, you got to make them known, especially if you are working in a remote environment. Share, pin it to relevant group spaces, you know, ask for feedback. A kickoff meeting can work really well if you're a meeting culture, or short, you know, recording a Loom, whatever. You all know how to communicate, but just do it a lot for your best practices and making them known. And we talked like a little bit, like I had like this one bullet about determining success and sharing that. It's a huge can of worms for any you know, channel, marketing communication channel, right? Is like, is it working? I'm not going to tell you prescriptively, hey, like these are the ways that you can figure out if something's working. But I want to give you a bunch of different options because you can really pick how deeply you want to go and figuring out your success criteria, and also like documenting that. So give me one hot moment to switch into AppQues. So I'm in my lovely Journeys test account here, and I'm just going to go over some very basic high-level ways to track success and also some of the nuances that can be found when creating that. I was just talking to my friend Amanda Peacock from Xylo. Shout out to her. If you're not following her, she's great follow on LinkedIn. She's a customer marketing director, knows a lot about what we do. And she was sharing that she had some complexities, figuring out how to consider something completed. What does it mean if something is working? And this is a huge question. I'm not going to spend the entire time talking about this. I could spend like 6 hours talking about this topic in general, but I do want to give you just some simple tactics to determine whether or not you are able to see an impact with your experiences, and how you're able to kind of find an easy way to track it and see that lift and share that with other people, like make that obvious. And re-explaining that to other people is a lot of time the hardest part, right? So I'm going to start with really simple goals. Creating a goal will show, and attaching it to a flow will show everyone who saw that flow, saw that flow experience, and then also met the qualifications for the goal within the past 7 days. That date range isn't customizable or anything. It's just the past 7 days, but it's a really good start to understand whether or not the flows that you're creating are actually driving people to complete something. So I have this example I've been using about like booking a trip with some flows around travel. So I can use anything to define my goal criteria. It's just like a segment, but maybe in this case, I want to have an event occur. And so I can just create that goal, super, super simple, and attach it to my flow. Now, this is a really, like I said, easy way. I did it in 2 seconds to attach it to my flow and understand in the past 7 days how many people have either performed the actions, had their user properties changed to something that would qualify them to meet this criteria. Now, when using goals, I would also encourage you to like pick a goal and stick with it. Don't pick individual teeny tiny goals for every little flow, because the idea in general is that you want to see like, is your overall program working? You can dig into the individual metrics of a flow, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But this goal will tell you, like adding a goal that's a lot more event or usage based or property based will really help you understand like, okay, are these people doing the thing we want them to do? Reason I mention that is because I see a lot of people creating goals that are like, did they complete the flow? And there's different ways that we can understand if they actually clicked through the flow. So I really encourage you using that goal and then making that goal visible in some way. I can show you how to do that in journeys at the end. But if you're not using goals right now, go ahead and attach them to your flows. Something very, very simple. And, it's related to, the next thing is related to how you actually go ahead and track if the flow is being completed or not. And if that completion is leading to the event being done as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the flow analytics page here for a second. We have the step breakdown, and then we have the completion. A completion is going to be different for different types of steps and flow types. So it's not always a reliable metric just to understand, like, if you want to know the exact funnel of the people completing the individual steps, you want to go to the step breakdown here and understand, like, okay, are people completing this? Are people seeing this step? And that's where you want to kind of see if each individual step of your flow is effective. To me, this is like less important when you're trying to understand the success metric of your flow. I would really start with a goal and understanding at a high level if people who are looking at your flow are doing your thing that you want them to do. And I want to talk a little bit about actually, how you can customize the buttons and customize how you build your flows to make that step reporting and other reporting in AppQs work a little bit more how you're thinking about it. So in any button here, this is a button in AppQs. In any button, we have these variety of options. We have, you can go to URL, trigger a flow, dismiss a flow, go to a custom step, skip to a next group. And all of these will determine, obviously how people are moving through that step breakdown that we showed. So if it's very important for you to create a funnel that allows you to see and makes people go through a certain set of steps and understand exactly how they're going through those steps, you'll want to really restrict their ability to navigate on their own without going through this funnel. So, for example, with this, if I wanted to have them go to the next step, I would also want to remove the skippable option from here, because that will allow them to just dismiss the flow at any time. And you won't be able to, you'll see that they have drop off there, but you won't see exactly where they'll have drop off. So you can also do, if you will still want them to be able to dismiss the flow, you can have dismiss action in the button action and then have them mark the flow complete. If you're saying that the flow, if they dismiss the flow, it's not a good thing and it's not considered complete, you can toggle that off and that will affect the reporting that I showed you on the previous screen. I'll review this in a minute. I know it's a lot, but, and then there's also, this is a really great way to also understand success and how people are moving through your flows, is to create a track event for a button. This will create a custom event that anytime anyone clicks any of the buttons in your flow that are tagged with this event, they will trigger this. So I use this all the time for all types of different things. And if you're sending AppQ's events to other systems, this is a good way to sometimes see the button clicks as well. I find this very, very, very valuable for tracking success. In fact, I use this often to track success rather than going through and looking at the flow events in the flow analytics page. That's what I mean by it's very customizable. So I want to show you all the ways that you can change how your success is tracked in your event to make that happen. So the next thing that I want to dig into a little bit here is actually using your conditions to restrict who has seen the flow previous to your other flow. And you can actually kind of create that little funnel to have that actual like user journey more accurate. So let me show you here. I have this.
Lila,
yes.
before you jump, we've got a couple questions that are related to what you're on. So I think you just covered it, but for completions, I'd like it to be completed if they click on a button to go to a survey. Doesn't count as completed if they dismiss the flow entirely using the X.
Yes. Yeah. So it does not count. You need to, for a button, that's actually why we have that mark as completed button there. So if they, for example, fill out a survey and then you want them to only be considered completed if they go to click out the survey. Let me show you. So I can do that example right here. This is a really common one, right? This is what I was just trying to explain a little bit. So if we want this next step to be like, say it's just like take survey, right? And you're tracking that just for fun. And say this is the survey. You would want to make this the flow where you have the survey on with a button with the mark flow complete. And you could put a track event if you wanted to add even more detail, like that they've actually completed the survey. I do that all the time. In fact, this was the example that's already in here. But you do have to mark the flow complete here too to get the survey results to show properly as well. So I would turn that skippable off, like I showed in the other before, so that they're actually going to the next step, and then having this section is where it's actually marked as completed. I hope that helps. Let me know, Jeff, if you want me to elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Courtney, we had goals set up and they stamped our Salesforce contact records every time that event activity. Oh, that is a good question. I'm probably going to have to fob that up to support, Courtney, because I don't know exactly how our integration works for that. But that is a good question. I will ask Joey on our team. Okay. Any hoozles. If you have any other questions like that, folks, please let me know. Thank you, Anna. So similar to like what Jeff was asking, basically like how can I configure things so that I am what is determining an app use is being seen, being completed, being shown. I'm tweaking that exactly so that I'm creating the experience that makes sense to me to track it. So for example, we could also do, say we've got a survey flow that comes after our main flow. And it's only supposed to pop up after somebody has clicked on the first step and not seen the second step. So we can use our step groups to create like a little tunnel for them to go through. So we could use our, say we want our preparing, we want them to complete or to see step group 1, which will be this slide out step, for example. We could add more slide outs, or if you wanted to add a different content type, that would be considered a new group. So if you had a big long flow with a bunch of different content types in it, and they only needed to get to a certain part of that flow, you can use your conditions to say like, okay, well, they just needed to get to step group 2, and that's been seen, and then I'm going to show them this next flow to remind them, or then they'll be eligible for the next flow in the series. So you're kind of creating this more narrow journey. So they don't have a lot of options to see things if they're not eligible for them, or if they've seen something before and haven't completed it. You can kind of funnel them through. The other way to do this is to, if a flow has been completed, so that means there's a lot of different definitions, like I said, based on the type of content that's in the flow. So whether or not there's a modal, there's a slide out, there's a tooltip, their hotspot, those have different completed definitions. And I'm actually going to plug our chatbot that we have a proof of concept for right now, because we have, yes, you're saying yes. Yes. We have this really cool chatbot that you can ask questions to. We've been trying out. So this is a really good time when you're trying to figure out, okay, like if I have, you know, a hotspot and 3 modals, and I want to figure out if this, like what is considered completed, you can ask our chatbot questions like that. When is a flow completed? Hopefully I asked that question right. Let's see if it can help me. We've been calling the chatbot Keith. So this is really helpful if you need a quick answer. So right, their completion criteria differ based on pattern types. And here's a quick kind of rundown for that. But so you can also have kind of set flows trigger after when other flows are completed. So by redirecting to a different page or triggering another flow, so that the flow has to be completed before that next flow shows. That's really good to do like with surveys, or to trigger a survey, make sure the other flow is completed. That's all I have on making sure to create those funnels, adding your track events in, being sure to do that consistently, however you do it, and document it. It's going to take some playing around. You know, you're building essentially another type of product on another product. So there's a lot of nuance, but picking the way that you do it and sticking with it after you've kind of settled in is going to be your best friend. I'm going to plug one last little area to check out, and I'll show a little bit more about this when we get into journeys, which is the flow events section. This is another way to, at a glance, get a little bit more detailed into how a flow event, started, who's using it. You can filter by segment in that area and then go back to the flow details from here. So I do find that this is a good way to also just like get a good view into your flow event specifically, if you're trying to drill down into those. All right. Of course. Yes.
Well, I think we've got one good question, and then we can go back. And if we don't get to your questions today, I promise we'll follow up with every single one via email after. So just keep dropping them in. But can I link a goal to an element or button of my own UI? That would be good to just cover.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, Alan, the way that you would want to do that is to use a track event right within. And I'll show you here. I got to get on my Windows. Sorry, Alan. Okay. So say I, want to track a button click. I'm going to use this example website I've been using for a while, the University of Maine Hudson Museum. It's completely random. I just really like museums. So I'm now kind of going, hopefully you can see this because I'm sharing just my screen, but I'm just going through and hovering over any element on this site and say I want them to do like my quick links. I can go ahead and click that, and then I can define it as a click, a hover. If you're doing it in a text box, you can have them type into a specific field and go ahead and create your track event that way. And then you can associate that in your goal. So let me go back. Let me show you the whole point. So you'll have defined your event there. I'll do clicked on quick links. Clicked on quick links. Say that 10 times fast. I'll have that here. It'll start tracking, and then I can go back into my goals, and I could create a goal. I can have my event, and it'll show up here in a little bit. The Google icon clicked, but we would see clicked the quick links in here, and that's how you would do that. All right. I see some other good questions here. Yes. Oh yeah, Jeff, as far as surveys, do you suggest only a few questions on one step, spread out? Yes, the CSV responses will all be on the the survey responses will all be on the export. And yeah, that is a tough question. I do like what people call them micro surveys, I guess, where it is just like one question on a step. I like to do it that way, but it really depends on your audience. You might want to try with the audience randomizer feature. You might want to try doing it like in 2 different groups and seeing how your results differ. So just while I have you folks here, there's also a way that you could split audiences. So Jeff, if you wanted to send a survey, 2 different types of surveys to 2 different types of people, you could use the audience randomizer property and do less than 50, and it'll tag everyone. It'll find everyone who's tagged with that less than 50 and show them that. And then you could split the other one and do more than 50 or something like that. We've got some more info on there in the docs, but that might be a good way to try stuff like that. Adriano, I see your question about Figma. We don't have any plans on the roadmap for that, but we have heard that before for sure. I've heard that many times, but that's really good to know. And I can definitely share that back with the team as well. Another good question from Courtney. Can you make app queues pop up based on a click event, like what you're setting up before the page changes? Yeah, so you would want to do that using a track event or a trigger event, as a part of the targeting condition on a flow. So let me show you. And then we have to show you guys journeys. And then I'll answer a few more. So The way you'll do that is you'll come in. Of course, I don't have it on my test account. Love it. But you'll click this when an event occurs, and then you'll select your event from that dropdown. I'm pretty sure that's available on your plan. Courtney, I'm almost positive. And then depending on how you track the event, like if you're doing a track event or an application event that's sent directly when something happens, this will occur. The AppQ's flow will show as soon as we see the event, as soon as like it registers from us. So it doesn't require a page change. That's what you'll want to do for that. Okay. Now I wanted to show you all of this like kind of disjointed stuff and all the different ways that you can do this, because it's not only about the success criteria. Like obviously we could talk about that forever and all these little nuances. Like I said, we could probably go off on that subject just as a team for like another hour and have a lot of questions. But try playing around with some of those things I showed you. There's not going to be like a do it this way, don't do it that way answer. It's really going to depend on how you like to track things and what works for your team and your company. But those are some of the things we talked about. So just like adding those goals. If you want to make sure to have like funnels or tunnels, make sure that those are being set up properly in the settings targeting. The other things to make sure to build up is those processes, right? Don't start with a ton of process and then dump it on people. It's just more about adding a little bit as you go. And you can usually tell you need more process when these things are happening, like your flows you don't even know are out there. You don't know how things are doing. And so that's kind of how you know when it starts to become chaos. But you don't have to go hard all at once. I'll talk a little bit later of some other ways to like some documents you can create. There's a ton of stuff I've written on this topic already, so I won't beat a dead horse on that. But I also want to show you a little bit how journeys can help you keep track of all those small things we talked about. And just make your life easier when you're trying to get back in and keep all these things, together. There's a lot going on in our AppQ's worlds. So I'm going to share an example of how I might want to show a bunch of flows that I've been working on for my little scenario where I have this flow that helps people book a trip through the Hudson Museum to Central America. I don't know. It's a fun scenario that sounded fun to me that I made up in my head. So what I'm going to do here is I've created my journey, which is basically like I made this banner up here, which is me trying to summarize it as much as I could get, which is a live, always up to date whiteboard of your AppQ's experiences. So you can think of this like a good visual folder and jumping off point to track not only the flows that are live, but also those events and tracking things that you're using. So for example, there's a bunch of different ways that I can create a journey. Just like I was saying before, there's a lot of different ways you can track something. There's a lot of ways that you can use journeys that work for you. I'm going to give a couple of different examples. On my right-hand side here, I have my nodes, which is basically like the visual representations of whatever is in your AppQ's account. So we've got triggers where your users might start their journey, a page, or like Courtney, an event like we just talked about. So if you had an event that triggered a flow, like we have the clicked on quick links, and you added that event, that would show you all the flows that are triggered by this event. So we can also do this, and more commonly, what most people will probably do is add a page to start with if you want to see all experiences that start from that page. For those of you who are really building those like very kind of funnely style user journeys, and you really want to just start from that page and kind of go down the experience through that, what the user might see, you can go ahead and add that page, and journeys will find all of the flows that are attached to that page. Pins, banners we've got here, we've got a couple flows and they're launching other flows. So we can review that and decide if it's what we want. The other cool thing, and the reason I was showing, events and goals and track events is that Journeys will also show you the track events associated with those buttons that I pointed out earlier. So if you add a track event to a button, you can easily see it here reflected as like that's the thing you're using to track that item. So I could click that little eye icon, and then I'm taken directly to the application detail page to review that information. The other thing is that you also have the ability to see your goals here, and it will also find, Journeys will find flows with similar goals. So if you add, a couple flows and they all have the same goal, they'll all show as represented by that same goal on the canvas. So let me show you an example. If I wanted to update this flow, I can go right into my settings page from Journeys. And I can either, I'm going to pick an existing goal. I'm going to add my booking a trip. And then I can go right back to my journey. And I see that this is now also connected to my preparing your trip Belize flow. So it's a really good way to also just like show me what flows are actually supposed to be doing what in a visual bird's eye view. That's just one way if you're like trying to explore and understand what's going on with a particular user journey. But if you also wanted to create more of like a visual folder or trying to create a journey for like a one-off project, you could add flows also ad hoc or like start with checklists, for example. So if I wanted to show let's say my book your trip. I can, oh, fun, a book. Okay. Yay. All right. I'm having some trouble with checklists lately. And I think I've kicked it up again. Well, ignore that one, folks. But if we do the same thing, like with a page, we can also ad hoc add journeys. I've just completely broken that one, so ignore me. So we can also add experiences ad hoc, like I was trying to explain. So if we wanted to put our, let's do this one. It'll add the flow and it'll also, there's our checklist. Thank you, honey. Don't know why you weren't coming before, but it'll show the checklist that might launch that flow and the additional flows that it triggers as well. And, a pin and a banner, for example, are often not triggered by other flows. They just show up on pages. So you can also ad hoc, just add them to your screen. And maybe explain what these banners are doing. My favorite part about Journeys is this ability to add a little note too. Like a lot of times flows need some context and you need to be able to explain like, this event is for this because we don't have a good way of understanding who is clicking on this, There's a lot of different ways to kind of add clarity to even yourself as to why you might have built something. Like I used Journeys the other day and put a red note over a flow that I needed to delete because I forgot to delete it earlier, but it was attached to something else. So I had to wait till it did blah, blah, blah. So this is another really good way to keep yourself organized. And not only that, once you have this set up, you can also take screenshots of this or share it out. And it'll create a direct link to this journey that anyone in your AppQues account can go in and see and explore from here. So if they want to see the analytics, open this flow in Builder directly. They don't have to necessarily go all over the place and like find the right flow, the right version, the right name. It'll just all be curated here for them.
You have a really great question, Lila, about filtering. So I don't know if you were going to cover filters, but can you filter on a specific user property or how the event is triggered?
Yeah, so you can filter by segment if you start with a page or an event, right? So the way that you can sort of think about this is these are your triggers, and this is how we know if somebody started a journey. So if you start with a trigger or an event on your page, then you can go ahead and filter that down by that segment. So
Could you pull that up for us, Lila? We're seeing your slides. Would you
oh,
jump back into journeys? Thank
my
you.
bad.
You're good.
So in this, Anna's created like we can do this. Where's my segment one? So what we can do, stop clicking, is add a filter for either experience status. You can show like only your published flows if you want to see if there are, too many, like that example you mentioned. Or you can add a particular segment that this whole graph, starting with the page, will be filtered by. So after adding that filter, it's only showing me published experiences that are live to my signed up last week segment. Beep. And then I can do draft only. And these are saved. So if you go away and then you come back, as long as you open the right one, they will be saved on there. So this is also a really good way to show people like, hey, this is the journey that I have going to these people, in this group. And you can add in some notes there to provide context too. And that same goes for events. Same goes for events. Like you could add an event and then add a segment filter on that as well. And they have a couple more minutes. Any other questions, folks? I want to share this too because I showed this a lot, but I think this will be helpful to have in the slides that you get in your inbox too. Like some different ways. Anna made this slide, and it's very, very helpful to understand like the different ways that you can sort of bucket things. I don't know about you, but right now I find it very hard to keep myself organized, even with Miro boards and stuff, because it's still not in AppQs. Yes, Amanda Peacock. I'm going to put her name in here. She's going to be like, what the heck? But she's wonderful. Highly recommend getting in touch with her if you are in the customer marketing world. She's also an AppQs user and has just taken over her AppQs account. So she's doing all kinds of stuff. This is also a really nice legend to what journeys can do. And well, obviously this will be in your inbox once you get the recording. It's a lot more succinct way of describing what I did, but I definitely want you to give it a try. You're not going to mess up anything in your account by creating a journey. It's just a visual of what's already there. So don't worry about it. Don't worry. You're not going to mess anything up unless you change the settings of your flow. We talked a lot about, and like I said, I have a lot of documents around this that we can share when we send out the email. I have like a blog article that goes into some detail about like the resource library, QA. I have a couple made with AppQs articles, so I don't want to repeat myself too much on those topics. But this is an awesome example too of how we use our own AppQs for AppQs channel, because obviously we're AppQs, so calling our AppQs channel would be strange, but yours would probably just be called AppQs, and you can pin stuff to it, like what I discussed before about like pinning a best practices thing somewhere very visible. It's a really good way to do it. And this is something I've done before. So these are all other good ways, like when you're talking about building those processes on, I mean, these are all pieces of that process, like an archive, a request form, a team channel, a meeting, flowcharts or journeys. These are all kind of things you can add in as you go. But yeah, Jeff, I know the feeling. It's really, really hard. It's really hard. We struggle with it even here at AppQs. So it's not easy. Hopefully journeys can help in some way. Jeff, I know you've been messing around in there a little bit. I've seen you, not going to lie. So if you have any feedback or things you want to see, let me know. I will let people know before we're wrapping up. I realize we're out of time. The analytics are coming next. So soon you will be able to see in there, in a journey, you'll be able to click on any experience, not just a flow, but a checklist, a pin, a banner, and you'll see the metrics for that experience right there so that you don't have to, keep jumping to the analytics page and jump into the individual analytics page for this flow and that flow. You'll be able to just see all the analytics, in that one section for that experience, that group of experiences that you want. So I'm really excited for that. This should be coming early December, before the end of the year, all the analytics at once. So very excited for y'all to see that. I will answer Courtney's last question because it's not a long one. What are your best practices on flow limits? How many do you recommend per week? Yeah, especially during the busy season. This is really hard because it depends on how many users you have, but I like to do like 2 flows a day. I don't usually think about it from a weekly level, but for a week, I mean, you could average it out. That would be a lot. So maybe you just want to do like 1 or 2 a week, especially if you have infrequent, like people who are only logging in maybe once a week, twice a week. Just not bombarding them. But it's hard. It's hard to know. I wish I even had a better answer on some exact science to figure it out, but I don't have one. But I would say, yeah, 2 a week, go up from there. But yes, thank you all. Sorry I ran out of time and went a little bit over, but if you know where to find me, lila@appcues.com. If you would like to give me any feedback or, have any requests for the next thing we do.
Yeah, if we didn't get to your question, we'll follow up via email.
Yeah. Yes, that is a very good idea, Jeff. We do that too. We have a block list, and that is one of those things that you can put in your best practices document. You can say, always add the block list. So, yeah, it's a really good way to keep people grumpy folks off your radar, not messing with your metrics. Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you at the next session, and find me on LinkedIn if you need anything else.
Thanks, everyone.